Hi friends! Join me in the garden for today's video as we look back at springtime and some much needed cleanup in the garden. I'm starting with the kitchen garden, which clearly needs some love. Let's grab some supplies and get started. We made this garden bed 2 years ago now, but it's still a work in progress. I'm slowly adding more perennial herbs and flowers in here, so it is coming together bit by bit, and I'm hoping every year that goes by we'll have less crabgrass and weeds growing through here. It looks pretty sad right now, but there are some perennials in here that will start to leaf out and get bigger as the season goes on. I've got some rosemary in here, which I'm super proud of. I'm super excited. It can be hard to get rosemary to survive through the winter here, so I picked the most cold hardy variety that I could find, and it's looking pretty good. I had some thyme in here, which is more cold hardy than rosemary, but it died over the winter for some reason, so I'm gonna have to replace that. I also have some flax in here, some mums, some decorative alliums, just some random stuff that I put in here kind of before I really had a plan for this space, and I've been learning as I go with gardening, so I think I'm gonna probably swap some of this out later, but for now we'll keep it in here until I know what else I'm gonna replace it with. I also have some sage in the back there that's looking pretty good, as well as some oregano. So in this bed, I mostly just had to pull weeds. There are a few things I had to clip back this time that died. I totally clipped back. And then the oregano had some dead stems to clip back, and then the mums in the back. For the mums, I pulled off everything that was dead from last year, and there was fresh growth underneath. It's very nice.
I know.
Here is a look at all the chaos we have in the back of our yard. We had 5 trees taken out last year, and we also ripped out about 200 feet of hedge, so there is so much wood and debris that we have to process. We've used this little wood shredder so much, and Greg has spent so many hours out here with the chainsaw chopping up all these logs. Believe it or not, it's so much better than it used to be, but we still have a lot of work to do back here. Next up is our hydrangea bed. These hydrangeas always get packed with dried leaves over the winter. There's something about how the wind travels in this space between our house and the studio that always piles leaves in this bed. I really actually should have gotten in here sooner to get rid of these so that we have more airflow around these hydrangeas. They've already put out leafy growth that is definitely getting stifled with all the dried leaves in here. Normally I try to do this a little bit earlier, but I just didn't get around to it in time this year. I am also pruning these, which is actually incorrect. How you prune your hydrangeas depends on what kind of hydrangea you have, which I knew and I did look up in the past, but somehow, somewhere along the way, I mixed up how I was supposed to prune these. I know these are macrophylla hydrangeas, but I had for some reason thought that when I looked it up, that meant that I should prune them in the spring. Either I totally mixed it up or I just was getting that information from an unreliable website. So for macrophylla hydrangeas like these, I actually should have pruned these back in the fall. By pruning these in the spring, I probably pruned off some flower buds. Most of these did not flower this year, so that's probably why. So if you have this type of hydrangea, do not do what I did here. This was a mistake that I realized later because 2 out of 3 of these bushes did not flower, and then I went back and checked and I pruned them the wrong way. So different types of hydrangeas, if you have like hydrangea arborescens or like an oak leaf hydrangea, there's different types of pruning, whether or not they bloom on old wood or new wood. For macrophylla hydrangeas, I should have pruned these in the late summer or fall instead. Moving on to this little corner bed by the studio. This is a newer bed for me. I only made this last year, I think. So the soil is newer. It used to be grass, and it always takes a little bit of time to develop a good garden bed from that. As well as for me, it takes me some time to kind of figure out what I want to put in a bed and to work with perennials. I put a few perennials in here last year, which I'm happy with, but it's definitely looking really unfinished right now because it is. I've got some anise hyssop in here and some German statice in the front as well. I'm planning to fill out the front with German statice this year. I just ran out of seed last year and I had to grow more from seed this spring. But these ones I grew from seed last year are looking really good, and I'm really excited about it because this is the first year I'm gonna get any flowers off of these, and I want to harvest these for drying, so it's really exciting to actually be able to see flowers because they don't grow them their first year. On to the biggest area, which is our main garden space. There's lots of weeding to do in here. I'm starting with our tomato bed here. This trellis is how we will keep our tomatoes supported. This area ended up requiring tons of super tedious weeding. There's not a lot of perennials to work around in here, but we have so many tiny ground cover weeds. Particularly in this bed, the creeping Charlie is our nemesis. Unless the ground is really hydrated and soft, it's really difficult and time consuming to remove. This next bed also might have some tomatoes in it since I probably won't have quite enough space on the other trellis. I usually use this for snap peas in the spring, but I kind of missed the window on that this year, so we'll see what else needs something to climb on that maybe I can tuck in here this year. Meanwhile, Greg is weeding the asparagus bed. Most of these are looking pretty good. We just transplanted these and I was really worried we were going to kill some, but most of them made it. And here's how the straw flower are looking that I planted in the early spring. Some of them got shocked with a really cold night, but they are looking to be recovering pretty well. You might notice I'm not totally removing everything in here, and that's because I'm leaving the wild violets unless they're super close to something that I'm planting. These are a native plant, they stay pretty small, and I actually like to use them as ground cover if I'm not using the space to plant something. I'm finally tackling the worst spot in this garden space. This bed is totally filled with thistle and mugwort. I'm not sure what's up this year, but already in April we had so much more thistle than we ever have before. This bed is particularly annoying to clean out because we actually can't use this space anymore. We got a survey of our property for another big project that we have coming up, and in doing that we realized that our property line is not where we thought it was. And so half of this garden bed is actually on our neighbor's property. So this year, this bed is kind of a wash. We probably won't build an additional bed in this space this year, but next year I might want to add more beds to this garden because this particular space, this bed is 4 by 40 feet. So it's a ton of square footage that we're losing for growing space. Unfortunately, we can't use this for growing and harvesting, but we also need to figure out what to do with this bed so it doesn't just become overrun with weeds that encroach on our garden. The area adjacent to this on our neighbor's property has always been a pain for both of us. It was super overgrown when we moved here, just covered in morning glory and other invasive weeds. Both us and our neighbors have chipped away at it multiple times throughout the last few years, but it definitely needs to be planted with something to fill the space so the weeds don't just take over again. So let me know if you've ever dealt with an area like that. If there's anything low maintenance you've planted that can be planted en masse, looks nice, and doesn't require a lot of upkeep, I would love to hear about it. I'm hoping we can plant something native in there because that's always a plus. Finally, the weeding is finished and this space is ready for planting summer flowers and veg. Thanks for joining me in the garden and stay tuned to see how my 2025 garden turned out. Until next time.